Welcome back, everyone, to the Care Advocates. I'm your co-host, Lance A. Slatton. As always, I'm joined by my esteemed colleague and friend, Dr. George Ackerman, more famously known as Sharon's son, George. And we have a special guest today. We have Tony Lynch is joining us. He is a men's grief coach. Welcome, Tony. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, and thank you for being with us. I want to just quickly start off with, before we get into the questions, I introduced you as a men's grief coach, which I got to admit, I love that because, George and I are in the caregiving space pretty heavily. George specializing mostly in Parkinson's. We kind of do everything under the long-term care umbrella. There's not a lot of us out there, guys, right? It's mostly the ladies,
Right.
carrying that mantle. What really got you involved in what is a men's grief coach, and what got you involved in that, Tony?
Well, after struggling through a few losses, and everything just kind of hit me up all at one time, like losing all of my friends, my parents, grandparents, my younger brother, my parents, my son, you know, um, going through homelessness, being in, just making really bad decisions. I got to a place where I gave up, and that's where I became curious about seeing if there was other men out there like myself. And to be honest with you, when I first started, I wanted to be around these men so I could learn how to navigate it. And it turned into something different. It became like a brotherhood where we as men can actually sit down and talk and be open and honest with one another, right? Without the fear of someone taking what you said and using it against you, right? And I said, you know what? If I can help the next man not struggle the way that I did, then I'm gonna do everything that I can to do that. And that's when I got my certification to become a men's grief coach. And it was just because I wanted to see if I could do it. There was nothing special about it. It really wasn't, but it put me in a position to start my nonprofit, and connect and do more for the men that were out there. Because as you said before, there was women have a lot of resources. We as men, we don't. And so I wanted to do my part in filling that gap. That's all.
Yeah. And I like that because I actually, yesterday, this is very timely. I was speaking to a retired tactical sergeant from the United States Air Force, and he has started a nonprofit. And I asked him, one, you got the whole kind of stigma or the perception of the men won't ask for directions, very prideful, won't not
Mhm.
when they're sick they won't go to the doc, all of that. And I said to him, I said, here you are, a staff sergeant in the United States Air Force, and he's openly acknowledging he has PTSD, right? And I said, how hard was that for you to acknowledge that? And he said, it took a minute, but then I kind of, slowly realized I can take my experience and help my other servicemen and women, kind of walk
Mhm.
through that. And he started his nonprofit because of that. Tony, what's the name of your nonprofit so we can get that on the screen?
It's memories of us.
Memories of Us. Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Um, and how long has it been around?
6 years now.
Okay,
6 years.
congratulations.
I started in 2019, right before COVID, and during quarantine, we kind of
Yeah.
grew into what we are today.
That's wonderful, man. And I just want to thank you again for being here and for talking about an issue and making it normalized for, men to be able to kind of get in touch with those emotions and those feelings and, have that support when they're going through their grief and loss. For
Mhm.
me, was a caregiver for my father. Unexpected. It wasn't a terminal diagnosis. It wasn't a dementia or any cognitive related matters. He had developed an abscess, and that abscess ended up bursting and consequently got into his bloodstream. And for me, the hardest part was the anticipatory grief because
Mhm.
every day you're kind of mourning, but you don't know, is today the day? Is tomorrow the day? And, I just think grief is such an important issue. So I appreciate the work you're doing and, trying to help support men specifically through that.
Thank you.
Yeah. George, you want to go?
Yeah, I wanted to welcome again Tony, but to me, Tony's a legend in the field because we've known each other a few years now. But when I lost my mother and I was grieving, still grieving 5 years later. It's kind of, my mother's birthday was would have been just last Sunday. And the only way I make it is working with Lance, working with Tony, and all of you listening. I don't think I'd be able to even, move on, or not move on, but continue my own life without the support and the advocating every day. Like literally, it's a 24/7 thing. It's not a job. It's not even a passion. It's just something almost I feel required. But to team up with the both of you has changed my life for the better. But one thing is that I noticed, and shockingly, not just in Parkinson's, a lot of people, number one, don't want to talk about grief at all. Number two, many don't want to admit it will ever even come. Number three, at least we don't concentrate only in Parkinson's here, but we were told by 15 medical professional movement disorder specialists that you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. Except my mother was only 69 and died because of Parkinson's. She had no other issues. So when I started my journey as an advocate, I kind of looked on Facebook, looked on the other areas, and saw there's literally almost nothing for grief until by accident somehow or fate, I met Tony, and I think he's the guru because he really does concentrate on this topic, not just for men, but also for women, for everybody. And I consider him family. But what I was curious is, what are some recommendations that you have, Tony, for someone, to cope with loss? Because that's, I think, one of the toughest things, not just physically, but emotionally, that I, along with millions of other people, face. And also, we have to keep saying how to reach you, even though we just started the show, because there's people sitting here right now listening, or I hope they'll share this show, that don't know you're out there. And that's the only thing that breaks my heart today, is that someone like you is out there fighting and trying to help others. And we just need to get the world on board and be aware of the work you're doing.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, the one thing I do like to encourage people to do, surround yourself with people that are familiar with what you're going through. It makes it a lot easier to have the conversation. And what I mean by that, every loss has a certain way that you speak about it, right? I'm not going to speak to someone who has lost their parents about the loss of my son. What I can do is I could talk to them about the loss of my parents because they can relate to it a little bit more. So that's first and foremost. Never put yourself in a situation where it's an awkward conversation, you know. And as you begin to grow with your grief, don't be afraid to change people, right? Not everybody's meant to be there with you. Everybody's there to give you something, and then you reciprocate that by giving them something of yourself, right? But after a while, you may outgrow that. One or maybe one person, two people may come along with you to the next stage, just ready to advance in the way they're thinking and the way that they're looking at life, right? So don't be afraid to do those things. And don't compare what you do to someone else. That's the main thing, because what worked for me or what worked for George or anyone else out there may not work for you. This is why they say grief is an individual thing. It's your fingerprint, right? No one else is going to do it the way that you need to. So, you do it the way that you need to. And if you hit your version of rock bottom, just know that there's people to help you to help you walk out of that, right? Um, and I would say one of the biggest things, um, be around people who allow you to just be, right? Allow you, not asking anything from you, just allow you to just be who you need to be in those moments, right? Um, Another thing is find resources. There's resources all across the world. Find people that are a good fit for you.
Thank you.
No matter where you are. Yeah.
I appreciate it. I mean, I think we could talk for several hours, and then we'll probably lose some viewers because it's, again, a
Mhm.
topic I feel it's not discussed enough, but I'll send it to Lance now.
Yep. Thanks, George. Tony, I just want to kind of recap a little bit because I know you just shared some of them, but do you have any other tips that you could offer viewers and listeners for coping with loss? And if they're not sure if they need help, some people might experience a loss and it might be their first one, or maybe they've, grew up and the culture was, you kind of just, you toughen up, you deal with it, you push through, and they may not even realize they need to go to grief counseling or practice some of these tips.
Yeah, most definitely. And trust me, as a man, I was that way too. I didn't think I needed help.
Right.
Right. I was always taught to man up. I've always been alone, so I've had to face everything on my own. Right. I would say patience is your friend.
Mm.
Just because you feel like you don't need it now, life has a strange way of bringing certain people into your world, right? And changing the way you may see it. So, patience is your friend. Um, Educate yourself, right? Educate, and what I mean by that, find something that's digestible for you. Be curious enough to ask what these things are because you're a human being. And so the stigma is something created to keep you from connecting to who you truly are in your authentic self. And that for me, I believe that grief is the deepest human connection that you can ever have with someone else because it strips away all of the lines, the blurred lines.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. And what advice would you give to family members who may have a friend or a relative? It could even be, a wife seeing their husband going through grief, but doesn't know how to approach the husband about getting help. What's a good way to kind of approach that issue to try to get somebody to go seek help?
Well, that's the biggest thing. You can't really push somebody to go seek help, right? You can open up the doors.
Right.
You can say, I have resources if you do so choose to use them, right? The biggest thing with men is that men are we're very stubborn. We like to think through things and then we don't like to ask for help, right? But if the opportunities are there, a lot of times we'll pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
Big thing is just because you want to talk doesn't mean that that person wants to talk. Again, leave the door open so you welcome the conversation. And once that conversation is being had, try not to make it about you. Right? You know what I'm saying? So don't compare what you're going through to this individual. As men, if I was to do that to someone, you would shut down. I've done it to people before. I pick up the phone and go call you, or you know what I'm saying, or you say, "Oh, you could trust me, you could talk and things like that." But as soon as I open up my mouth, you cut me off and you make the whole thing about you. I'll never talk to you a day in life again.
Yeah.
Right? What's the purpose? You just proved to me what society has already proven to me, that no one cares about what I'm going through. So if you're going to open up that door, let that person lead the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Allow them to be comfortable with you.
Yeah.
We ask for the same thing that women ask for. We want to be heard and we want to be seen as well, without you saying, oh, well, without people comparing things, like my tragedy is bigger than yours type thing. It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about being in the moment with people.
And we all know those kind of people, don't we?
We do. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Tony. George, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I really appreciate all your thoughts. And again, I continue to learn from everything you do, Tony. I've had the honor to work with you on book, The Summit. I thought it was just a beautiful time and even had professional rappers involved, which was fun to have.
Yes, sir.
It almost looked like, one of those famous things out there, but, let me know when the movie comes. And then also, you also have the magazine. So I know it's a lot, but what are some of the things you're working on now and how can everyone out there also reach you? Because again, I don't know if it was fate, how I met or why, Lance or you, Tony, but I'm really grateful each and every day to call you both just not just friends, but really brothers in this advocacy.
Well, I got to interrupt real quick, Tony, though. You know what it is, Tony. You know what it's about, you and I. It's all about the hair. That's what got George in here.
Yeah, I'm trying
That's
to.
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. We
I'm,
welcome
I'll be
him to the club.
Two more years, I'll be
feel
50.
comfortable.
Next month, George is shaving his head for the show.
Hey, I'm there for it. Don't make me come down there. I will tell. I will hold you down.
And well, you two look better than I would with the vaults. And Michael, you
And
too,
you
Michael.
never know. It takes time, though. It takes
Yeah,
time for your head to get used to not having hair up there, and it works after a while. It
It
really
does.
does.
It does.
Yeah. But to answer your question, George, I got the magazine, Grief Talk magazine. It's just another resource to get information out there to people, which includes articles, podcasts. It includes events and things like that from people across the world. Want to keep people informed. The other one is my graphic novel, The Adventures of Grief Guide, which is well, I'm soon to turn that into an animation. We just finished the soundtrack for it, so we got something big. And also, I think I was mentioning it earlier, I'm creating a YouTube channel for it, so you can go there and actually, be a part of the readings of every chapter, so people can enjoy that as well. I'm creating a networking app for the Global Grief Network where people can find resources no matter where you're at in the world. I'm also creating in the process of creating a game with that as well. So helping people along the way, being educated, but meeting people where they are through the things that we do, through creativity and things like that. Um, the podcast grief, let's talk about a podcast, which you already know. I do that. Been doing that for years. And they can find that on YouTube. People can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok.
I appreciate it. And I do think you're, if not the leader, one of the best out there in the grief area. And I just hope we can also help, many people, I would say help millions to find you, because I think it's not just about following or joining, but it's also to find, I don't want to just say brotherhood, but it's family, in this
Mhm.
emotional and physical area that still, in a way, haunts me every day. But I get through it through this show and through both of your work. I remember, I think, again, I've never seen a magazine on this. So whenever I see you talking about things or doing them and letting me be a part of it, it's just life changing, game changing. And I hope everyone, again, listening shares this, supports Tony, and jumps on the train, because you don't want to be alone. And I feel no one's ever alone, but you do have to do a little bit of work, just clicking a button to find Tony. And Lance and I will share that, so you can also find him, join him, and work with him, because he's so open, and honest, but also lets people join in, which can't say the same for some of those people out there who have reached out. Let's say, I won't say the name, but like some of the bigger major TV channels, the media, because we need them to join in also, and hopefully they'll find you also, Tony. So thanks again.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. Thank you for joining us again here this month at the Care Advocates, where we're advocating for you. We look forward to seeing you again here next month.